So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forward. So, this afternoon, I'm delighted that we have with us Jack Evans, who's the business development director at Jobdeck. So, Jack, firstly, thanks for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Jobdeck, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thanks for having me. So, just to give you a bit of a intro into Jobdeck. So, what we do essentially is we've developed an automation tool that helps businesses scale more effectively. So, what traditionally we're finding is that talent acquisition teams are overworked and under-resourced.
Yeah.
They may be working on too many roles per person, and they don't have the tools at their disposal. Great people that don't have the tools at their disposal to hit their targets and scale a business effectively, and then
Yeah.
that has a knock-on effect on business performance, the quality of people that come through the door, and generally just the business growing in general. So what we've developed is a tool that helps talent acquisition teams attract candidates at the top of the funnel with employer branding, filter and assess them at scale, and then
Okay.
provide an amazing candidate experience. So if you're a candidate, even if you've been unsuccessful, you leave that process and go, do you know what? I had a great experience there.
Great.
So that's what we do at the moment. And as part of that, one of the early members of the team and my responsibility is everything commercial. So getting this into the hands of TAs and helping them do their jobs better, essentially.
Brilliant, brilliant, and such a relevant and important thing right now. I mean, every business I talk to, pretty much, is talking about how do you find and keep great people, and
Yeah,
my belief, and I'm saying most people I speak to us, is that most organisations have budgeted for many years on acquiring and including retaining clients.
yeah.
We call marketing client delight. We need to spend the same amount of effort and probably investment to find and keep great people, because at the moment people is number one.
So if you think about it, it seems strange that all of us are obviously human, but when it comes to the process of recruitment, candidates then become a commodity. So
Yeah.
for example, I spoke with a business that has 6 in the TA team. Each of those are working 16 roles, and each of those has between 200 and 300 applicants. So it works out across like 6 weeks, they have 19,000 applicants into the role
Well.
that currently they're filtering manually.
Yeah.
Now, there aren't enough hours in a month or a year to go through
Yes.
that thing. So what happens is they don't know the quality of people that they're choosing from a pile. There's like 90% of those, they're not getting back to them and they're having a poor experience.
Yeah.
So everyone that has a poor experience could be a consumer. So
Yeah.
for example, if there's a clothing brand and you give a candidate a poor experience, they might not use you as a consumer again. So it's we want to put the tools in their hands to provide a great candidate experience, but to take off most of that workload for those teams. So there's just better candidate experience, more people that are attracted, and you can be assured of the quality of person coming in, is what we're looking to do.
Brilliant. Yeah, as I say, absolutely so relevant right now across the board. So I'm sure it must be a great time to be doing what you're doing. Um,
Yeah, it's super interesting. Obviously, our biggest maybe obstacle, but is a psychology of things. So, for example, every TA person we speak to, whether it's TA director or whether it's TA, on the more junior scale that's using it, they love it, but it's getting into the CEO or CFO to go, look, obviously this you have to
yeah.
pay for the system.
Yes.
And I know you're a bit afraid of AI, but here is what you will get. Here is a return on investment for this. So it's just a psychology change rather than anything else.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It's absolutely fascinating. So if we look backwards for a little bit, Jack, and think about, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one.
Cool. So, my background is I graduated uni. Like most people, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I've got a call saying, "Why don't you try recruitment? You'll learn a lot." So I started as a recruiter for a company that did contractors into the NHS.
Okay.
For about a year, very steep learning curve, and it teaches you all kind of the fundamentals, not just functionally, but also, the kind of what would be labeled as softer stuff as well. Resilience, for example, is a big one in recruitment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
then my friend was working at a consultancy business that did executive headhunting, but they also did consultancy in terms of organizational design, in access to funding, working with VCs to help them build and assess their portfolios and things like that. So went over to there and was there 5 years. So I was a fourth employee, left when I had a team of 16. And then moved very briefly I thought I wanted to go into consultancy. So I imagined myself at PwC, and that's where I want to go. And I've done the headhunting thing. Spent some time in a boutique consultancy I thought was a stepping stone, and realized that consultancy in that form isn't for me.
Yeah, great.
I'm very much a doer. And the kind of the longer projects and the not necessarily just thinking about stuff, but just what is the return on investment from these consultants. And we've seen it now with, Deloitte losing a lot, letting go of a lot of people and stuff. So I thought I wanted to do consultancy, learned very quickly that I didn't. And then joined another recruitment firm to help them build a team within a team there. During that time, I was thinking about how do we change the landscape of recruitment for the better? So there's a lot you do in the recruitment process that is essential, but it's kind of low value. So the things you can't miss, you have to do them, but at the same time, no one wants to do them.
Yeah.
Sorting your ATS out, or, whatever it may be, filtering out, whatever it may be. And I thought, how do we do something like this? So before I was thinking, maybe I just start a company tomorrow and I'll work it out. And then I was like, well, let me have a look. So I had a look around, complete serendipity, but Jobdeck and I connected. I met the team here and they were like, look, we're at a startup phase, but we've got this great product. Why don't you come in and do it with us? So that's where we are now.
Wonderful. So it must be quite fun seeing things move from that sort of startup phase to where you are now.
Yeah, so that it's perfect. I love it because it's very urgent, and your kind of job description is this, but your days are like this.
Yeah.
Like if it's not for you, if you need a structure and here's what your week looks like. But I love it because it's just, here's what we need to get done, and you will get it done somehow. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny. I work with a lot of fast growth businesses, and before I became a coach, I had a very fast growth businesses as well, and it is that ability. We need lots of good people that are willing to do whatever it takes at
Yeah.
any time to get stuff done, and eventually you can sort of develop the organizational structure and become. But
Yeah.
I always joke because I think it's in the E-Myth, Michael Gerber's book, and he talks about the organizational structure in a starting business is it basically organizational structure is me, and if you're lucky, it's me and you, and that's about,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. And then it's like it's only over time that we start to actually take the roles out, and that's what it needs to be though. And there's only a certain type of person that can operate in that environment effectively.
100%. And I think what is interesting because larger companies miss this, but what we're hiring now, for example, and the reason we're hiring is because there's a load of stuff, there's a load of objectives and tasks that we're covering between us that have formed this job description. We don't know what the name of this person is, we don't know the title, but we know there's a job description here. We'll go and find that. And then what you find in larger businesses when it gets to a certain point is, I think at this point we should have a marketing person or whatever. Well, then we'll create a job description. Whereas here it's like, right, there's a load of tasks that have accidentally come together in a job description. Perfect. Now go and get someone to do that. But you're right, there's a certain type of mindset. Someone I spoke with, he's multiple founder of companies going through an exit at the moment. He said to me, the first 20 or so people are like pirates, right? It's just kind of get stuff done.
Yeah.
We need to get there somehow, and we'll work it out. And we're, just there's a bug that needs fixing before a meeting, but it's midnight. Let's just go and do it. One of those.
Yep.
And then he said, what happens is the 25th employee comes in and they shut their laptop at 5:30 and they leave.
Yep.
And he goes, it was really tough because he had to go, we're not all going to be pirates at a 100-person organization, right? And that person still does a good job, but he was just like, it's just hard to overcome the first time. It's just like,
yeah, and literally a 100-person business of pirates would destroy itself.
chaos.
It would be absolute nightmare. So it's absolutely right. The other thing I noticed we got up to 100, we did get up to over 100 people, and it was the first 20 you know them, you know their family, you know the pets, you know everything about them. And
Yeah,
then once you hit 20 and you go a bit further, you start to not know, you know them, but you don't necessarily know a lot about their family, etc. And then all, you know, and then you get to that day when you know you say, well, who's that? You know, someone's just joined us, and
yeah,
it's an interesting thing again to get used to,
yeah,
because we can't be that friendly with everyone if you know as things grow. Oh yeah, fascinating. No, I like the idea of pirates because that's quite it. Yeah, interesting. I'm working with a couple of very entrepreneurial people at the moment, and one of the things they've done is they've literally, because they are still in the pirate recruitment phase, if you like,
yeah,
they've literally said, "Would you like to come and work with two entrepreneurs and learn?"
yeah,
And the job description is very general because it's
yeah.
like you're going to do lots of stuff. We don't know what it's going to be right now, but you're going to learn from us, and they're attracting those sorts of people that go, yeah, I just want to know what it's like founding,
Exactly.
founding or growing a business.
And you can just say, look, comparatively, if you imagine your life joining us and you imagine your life joining, I don't know, a graduate scheme at an enormous business, I can guarantee it's just the trajectories are just massively different
Yeah,
because it might be more chaos and less structured, but you will leave probably being able to run your own business.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's just that's what we're going for as well. Bringing great people, we can teach you the other stuff, but just bringing great people that want to go for it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we always say is you know traditional recruitment is recruit you know, we recruit on experience, but typically we sack on attitude. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's cut to the chase and find the people with the right attitude, the culture match, and you can train most stuff. Going, I mean, obviously, you know, we can train most skills. So it's really attitudes take a lot longer to change. So
Yeah, and those same people will find out, will work out how to do stuff.
yeah,
So it's like you just want to hire a bunch of problem solvers, and one of those problems could be that they don't have a certain skill. But then they'll come back to you and say, "Here's how I upskill," or "I've already upskilled."
yeah.
It's just surround yourself with people that are just that way inclined, and then you don't have to just. I think the acceleration of your business will just
Oh,
go.
without doubt, yeah, 100%. So when you were growing up, is this where you saw yourself being, or did you have another plan?
I was going to be a footballer, right?
Footballer, great,
That's what, and I'm still holding out hope.
good man.
But probably not. No. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but during some trial and error, I just knew that I wanted to build something and I wanted to be a part of a high growth environment. So I don't want someone to bring this up in 10 years when I'm eating my words, but I couldn't imagine myself at an enormous corporate business anymore, unless they've got the entrepreneurial culture. But there's a certain point early in my 20s where I was just like, I want to build something, I want
Great.
to found something, I want to just be a part of just a high growth business. So didn't know what I wanted to do at school. Post school, didn't know what I wanted to do. Came out of university going, I think I've got this set of skills, but what do I want to do? So mine was less aligned to the skills that I had and more aligned to just like a way of thinking and a
Yeah,
psychology. And then working back from the psychology of building something and working at fast pace, you realize, well, that's working in a small business.
yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And so, and you know, since joining and growing the business, what are some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome?
Um, the biggest issues we have to come are pretty standard across startups, I think, which is how do you compete in an arms race with Microsoft? How do you compete in an arms race with, SAP or whoever it is? Well, what are your advantages against those? Well, the advantage is we can be super agile. We can be super, we don't have the take it or leave it attitude.
Yeah,
We're customer centric and we can move, we can't move at their scale, but we can move quicker. Um, so I think that
yeah,
one of the
brilliant.
biggest challenges is just competing at the level as a smaller business,
Yeah,
especially in a market that just becomes more and more. There's more entries to the market in any market every day. And then I think from a personal point of view, it's just the ups and downs of that. Monday morning, just had a great call. This is perfect. And then something's gone wrong on Monday afternoon. And then it's just up and down, which I don't think you get in a business that's steady state.
no, no, I think that's absolutely bang on. Obviously comes with its challenges, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's no, it's really interesting because we again we I guess we started in competition, but we sold our business. We were in software and consultancy, and we
Mm,
sold to Siemens, who
Okay.
we probably started competing with at some point, and then ultimately became co strategic partners and collaborated with them. But our
Yeah.
thinking, especially as you said, a small, fast moving business and a large, very very large organization that also happened to be Germanic, which makes it even more systematic, rules based. You
Yeah.
can't do this, you can't do that. Was fascinating, and ultimately it was a grinding the gears in many ways of
Yeah.
this massive wheel that went slowly and this little wheel that went really fast, and it was
And I think those companies still do like amazing things and they
yes.
innovate really well. I just think it's like, if I'm just talking for me personally, if you put me in certain areas of business like that, I would just be a bit like, come on, let's go. So,
Yeah, it,
but yeah,
it was a pro. I mean, we as I said, we before we sold to them, we were collaborating with them for a couple of years, and it was really difficult to co-collaborate because the
yeah,
yeah, and but it was cool. We worked through it, and it was okay. But yeah, very interesting. And I think the sort of answer to your question is we don't compete with these guys. We find a different niche. Our niche is we're fast moving.
that's it.
We can choose how to change things.
That's it.
Um,
And with ours, for example, we go, well, if keep Microsoft, plug us in, and both you'll get, it's not one on one is two, it's one on one is three.
yeah,
So you don't need to go, right, Jack, it's just cost us X amount and 2 years to bring an SAP. We're not getting rid of it. Cool. Just bolt us on, and we can be
yeah,
bolted on in 24 hours, and there you go. So what we're finding, and again, it's good because we are agile, is we need to work around them in certain ways. So like now, for example, we know if we're selling into a Siemens, for example, here is a list of obstacles we're likely to encounter. Get rid of those immediately, because what you don't want is to wait 6 months. Then they come back and go, here's an obstacle. And you go, right, that's another 6 months added. So
absolutely.
just being agile kind of fixes those problems for us.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. So throughout this growth phase you're in at the moment, what are some of the biggest learnings you have about business and growing businesses in general?
Um, I think for growing a business, I think if starting off at the individual, learn persuasion, learn psychology, learn to sell, and then add empathy and hard work to the mix, and you'll just fly. So if it's very early on, I think I'm very lucky because I have an interest in this stuff, but I love psychology and love everything around like commercial. So what I picked up throughout, because I'm interested in it, it's harder if you're not, but what I'm interested in is, persuasion, psychology, sales, etc. And my hobby is kind of cheesy, but I love work. So it's just like I'm very lucky because we're not competing who's a harder worker, because I love work and therefore it's not work to me. So you've
Yeah,
got the sales, persuasion plus work. We get you there. I think to answer your question, I think so. Learn those skills. I think who you work with and what you work on is more important than hard work. So, for example,
yeah,
you might be in a great business. You might be in a business that's doing really well. The revenue's great. But if you're not passionate about it,
no,
you're unsure. And it's the same as setting up. I know there's people that are business leaders probably listen to this. It's the same as if you're setting up a business. If you're setting up a business because you think some good money to be made, but I'm not bothered, then I don't think you'll succeed, even if there is good money to be
yeah,
made. And then I think probably finally is impatience with action, but patient with results. That's really tough for me because I'm just want to run everything, and my colleagues have to just go, well, let's think twice, let's measure twice, cut once, right? But the patience with results has really got me. So I'm there. We've got a great solution. We've had this conversation. What's happening? But I'm reminded impatience with action, patience with
yes.
results play in my head a million times.
There's I was at an event last year and they had the ex-CTO of Microsoft, a lady called Jennifer Byrne, and she said something which, and it's a phrase I use as well, which was slow down to speed up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I love that phrase because it is that okay, despite the fact if we're action driven, we want to get it done. Getting it done is about taking a step back and going, yeah, what maybe there's an easier path. But
exactly. I think is it the SAS, but I know surgeons use it as well, where um, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
that's yeah. I think yes. I think you're right. It's definitely there is definitely in the forces, but I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
it's a
it.
well used phrase across it because it's bang on. It's just
Yeah,
like take it easy, think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for for business leaders, it's just easy to forget that. But
Yeah,
if you have your plan and it's a great plan and just execute, and it might take longer than you think, but just continue executing. I think what a lot of people do on any level is go, oh, that's not worked after a week. I'm going to pivot. It's like, no, stick to the plan. Patient.
100%. It will get there. It's the I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like the South African rugby team, which is obviously the
Yeah,
current world champions. They talked about do they have a plan B? They have got plan A, which is just
yeah,
basically
yeah,
lots of big blokes running very fast, very
yeah,
hard. And they said plan B is basically plan A but better,
yeah,
which,
yeah, yeah. No.
which makes sense. So I think you're aware, Jack, we're a business coaching organisation. So I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's been the biggest influences on you?
Um, so coaches, I think. So I've had a couple, and each person for a different thing. I don't think these people necessarily know their coaches, for example. But so right now, working with a colleague who I would consider a coach, and he is all about patience, but he's all about enjoying the journey. Relatively philosophical, but he's like, what you're going to do is you're going to run at this. 5 years is going to pass, and you're going to miss it all. Good or bad, you should just be present for it all. So, um, he's really useful in that sense of just like slowing things down. One of the first coaches I had at one of the first businesses that I worked at just taught me not everything about business, but the foundations of business and persuasion and psychology. So
Right.
here's how you create an offer that works for companies, but yourself as well. And he works like, I think he still works like 23 hours a day. So he was just all over it. And now I've got a mentor as well at the moment. Um, Probably her, to be honest. Um she's amazing. So she is now in a portfolio career, but she's been COO of some, global banks, and she's scaled businesses before, and she's raised an amazing family as well. And conversations I have with her are a mixture of professional and personal. And how do you balance the two? Because a lot of people throw themselves into one, or a lot of people, don't get the mix right. But she's gone through the journey, and she's just passing on what it means to, yes, this professional journey is great, but here's what a good personal one looks like. Here's how you balance
Yeah.
them, etc. So that to answer if that answers your question, but I've never really had a specific coach. My football coaches haven't been. There's none I really remember, but the professional ones, yeah, I do.
Yeah, great. It's interesting. It's can be a different different person. I've spoke to a few people where it was a sports coach or a or a teacher sometimes has been that person, but and many people like you, it's people that
Yeah,
are around them right now, which is great. And whether it's from them or just in general doing life or business, we've come up with a couple of quotes already. But do you have any favourite quotes or sayings that you have other than the ones we've sort of covered already?
um, I don't know if these are the kind of the ones that you're looking for, but I go through bits of periods of subjects I read outside of work that are super interesting. And right now it's philosophy. So as you can imagine, I'm good fun at a pub these days, right? But um, what did I hear recently? So desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get the thing you want. So for example, if you're after a car and you go, all I want is this car, you're going to be pretty miserable until you get the car. Then you get the
Yeah,
car and it's something else, right? So
yeah,
make sure if you do have a desire, it's just one grand thing, and that you're not just being miserable until you get there. And this was completely in passing, but an ex-client and now a friend of mine, he said just in passing once, money is infinite, time is not.
yeah.
And I don't even think he thought that was as philosophical as it was, but he said it in passing, and I just think about that all the time. So I know people that kind of 50 years old and said, I would, when I was 20, I wanted to be a millionaire, and now I'm a millionaire, I want to be 20. It's just,
Yeah,
it's really hard to keep thinking that, because it's just like, I'm running at this thing, I'm running at this thing. But just those quotes around time are probably the most useful to me.
yeah. think it was the Dalai Lama, or it was certainly a Buddhist monk said something like that. That humans spend, spend their health to make money until they
Yeah,
no win, and then they spend the money to get the health back. And it's it is a bit nuts when a balanced existence is probably the better thing to do. But I agree, and it's really important to understand what is most important to us, which is quite a difficult conversation to have with ourselves. What do
Yeah,
we really want?
yeah, exactly. I think what is it? I might mess this up, but in your 20s, is health, health, wealth, and time. It's like in your 20s, you've got health and time. Do
Yeah,
you know, in the 30s, you've got kind of health and wealth, but no time. And
yeah.
then when you're older, you've got wealth and time, but no health. So just make sure that you're balancing all those things.
Yeah, 100%. And it's yeah, it's really easy to lose out, especially in small businesses where
Yeah,
it's so easy to give 24/7 for such a long period of time,
yeah,
that it becomes a habit. And it's really interesting, I find, because it, it's a habit we probably need for this sort of point where until we
yeah,
get to that sort of point of takeoff. But once we've achieved that, we really have to change the mindset quite fundamentally to
yeah.
to make it not about us, because we become the bottleneck if we still make it about us.
That's exactly right. I remember working with a CEO, one of the first clients in the exec search stuff I was doing, and he was saying that like he was sat in a boardroom in his company and he was looking around and everyone in that room was better than him. So he had to do very little. And he's like, that's the goal, to make yourself completely obsolete.
100%. Yeah, most people strive to make themselves indispensable, but don't
Yeah,
realize the biggest trap, that's the biggest trap we have. Our goal should be make ourselves dispensable, delegate what we've got so we can move to the next level, and including at whatever stage we are at the business, and ultimately as an owner of a business, that allows us to take a step out. Uh,
exactly right. I remember, so me and and I'm sure every friendship group has had this where it's like, oh, I did 50 hours this week. Oh, I did 60. And like in your 20s, you seem to compete for like, well, I worked really hard. And now you can see it going the other way, where it's like, I've got friends who are freelancer, just like, yeah, I did kind of 4 hours today. And then now we're on the way down to see who can do the least. So yeah,
the other thing that stuck with me, when I was listening to this lady called Jennifer Byrne, the other thing she said that I tell lots of SME business owners, which can be a bit of a mind mess, because she basically said in the US, when they're recruiting C-suite executives, they actively test them on their ability not to do things.
mm,
Now that is a bit of a mess with people's heads when you say, well,
yeah,
what? And it's like, yeah,
yeah,
it's their ability to actively delegate, obviously
yeah, yeah,
get things done, but through others, and it is that breakthrough. And if ultimately I see time and time again, if we don't break through that mindset, then we actually start to plateau. We hold the business back because we're not learning to delegate effectively.
exactly. And obviously, I'm biased with my background, but that's why it's so important just hiring amazing people around you. Because then
Great point.
there's no worry about that, or just like, I can take my hands off the reins because I
Yeah.
trust the team around me. It's like there's a obviously it's exaggerated, but Warren Buffett spends 11 months thinking and then he makes one decision. It's like that's the dream that leaders should aspire to.
I often say when I run events, I say, what would it feel like if you had more than enough time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
What would you achieve? And it's like, just imagine that you were sitting there and actively leaning back in your chair, put your feet on the desk, and just thought. I mean,
yeah,
how much more effective would we be when we give ourselves that time? And if we don't, then we're going to miss stuff. But it's such I think anathema is the word, anathema to SME founders and business leaders, because it is like we got here by
yeah,
working 24/7, and the challenges. And I think Marshall Goldsmith's book, what got us here won't get us there,
yeah,
is
yeah.
all of the title is, yes, we got here by doing that, but to get to there, we actually have to change fundamentally how we think and operate.
Exactly, and it's like an SME lead. Everything seems here. Everything that comes in is just like here. It needs to be dealt with urgently, and then your day just becomes a list of tasks, and you don't get any time to think. And that thinking time probably comes late at night when your family are there and you should be present, etc. And that's when you get some time
Yes.
to think.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I'm amazed the number of people tell me they do their best thinking when they're walking the dog, or
that's it.
and it's, well, that's the time you should be walking the dog or spending time with the family.
Yeah,
That is more important. And so, but like, and it isn't a difficult thing to even just allocate 2 hours, 3 hours a week, and just to think.
yeah, exactly. Strategically, but just in general about where you want to be. It's like I can't remember who said it, but it's something like all of man's problems could be fixed if he just spent 30 minutes in a room by himself thinking. And it's just like you don't have the space to just think about stuff. But if you carve out that space, again, that's what my mentor said. She's just like, cut out some time in your week to just go, I'm just going to think. That's what meditation essentially is, right? But
Yeah.
that's, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, meditation and strategic thinking. I've got these
yeah,
problems. What do I do? And yet, again, strategic thinking is typically done, driving home from work or whatever. But like,
yeah,
it is the most valuable activity we can do, and yet
yeah,
we
yeah.
use time that and and allow us time when we're probably being distracted anyway. But it's a bit nuts. So, what would you say, Jack? You've learned about yourself so far in your journey?
Um, what have I learned about myself? Um, I think it's that I just love building things. Now I've realized I thought that before, but now I just realize I love building things. The pressure and the ups and downs of the stress and the urgency of it is more, but I just love building things. And I
Brilliant.
think as well, everything I'm saying here is advice I would pass on, but I'm not saying I take my own advice. So I just think I need to be better at enjoying the journey, is what I've learned. Even if things are here, I just need to take some time out to go. Very lucky to be in this situation, and we're doing great, and we're having fun doing it, and we're doing what we love to do. So just enjoy that rather than, well, where's the next thing coming from, or do this or whatever. So what have I learned about myself is I just need to be more present, basically.
Cool, cool. And the other thing I would suggest you consider over time is that people that are good at starting and growing things in the first phase get bored.
Yeah,
So it's accepting there is likely a point in the future when it's better that you do something different, whether that's within the organization or
yeah,
something else, than expect to see it all the way through to
yeah,
that. Now,
yeah,
you may be one of the unique people that do both,
yeah.
but I haven't met many, I'll be perfectly frank.
I think, yeah, and I don't know because I've not been through the journey of startup to larger business, so who knows? But I think I'm more a 0 to 1 person in terms of, look, let's build something, let's get it in place, and let's just build this team of pirates or whatever. But then after that, who knows? But I think you're right.
It's that there comes a point of scaling when it's really primarily doing more of the same, and it's
Yes.
of the same that becomes a real well, I don't want to do more of the same, we'll do something different, and we can actually start to sabotage the business because we want to take it down a different route rather than what we've got absolutely works. We just need to do 100 times.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
And there's other people who will do 100 times way better than us offered. Not always, but it's worth considering because but that then gives us the chance and the time to be that strategic thinker because
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
in the middle of it. So it's an interesting thing to do. A lot of the work we do, is about mindset and how we think as much
Mm.
as the techniques, the tools of this is how you scale a business to 100 times or something. It is very much about the will. It's the mindset, the will, the identity of the individual affects what they do and therefore the results they get. uh,
Yeah, exactly right. And I think but that's the foundation, isn't it? Because
yes.
if you might have all the functional skills in the world, but if you don't have that resilience or desire or whatever again, my mentor, she recommended the grit book, and the mindset book, which is just about being resilient and having the right mindset of fail fast, and when you fail, how do you deal with that failure? So they can test this mindset in children, and in the book it says they gave them a puzzle to do, and when they completed it, they gave them the option of a similar level puzzle or a more difficult puzzle. And you could see the mindset in children already of people going, give me something more difficult. And
Yeah.
it's just leaders where it's like, right, I've failed. What do I do with that? Do I go, right, this isn't going to work? Or do you go, right, let's stop that from happening again? So to your point, I think what you're doing and the mindset, I think that's a foundation of success. And then you layer on the functional stuff.
Absolutely. Again, we can teach functions, but we can teach thing functions, but only when we've got a will to do so.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and it's the will, and it is it is to say it's a different identity and mindset at different stages of that growth curve, which is fascinating. So speaking of growth, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
So the future is exciting for us. So we've got some things in the roadmap from and everyone's got a plan, like Tyson said, until you get punched in the face, right? But we've got a roadmap that takes us into the future, and we're doing some amazing stuff with it. I think this year we're going for a funding round and we're building. So build this year and scale. The future looks like for us is essentially that across all areas. So hiring into the team, building more resource into the tech team, and yeah, raising money to scale basically. So for us, it's diversification in terms of not in terms of product, but more of the same, just in different ways. And how do we help clients better? So, for example, we work to what are talent acquisition teams' metrics, and how do we improve all their metrics, even if it's by 1% by adding a feature? How do we do that? So that's what the future looks like for us. I think challenges of that are just they're always macro. So people are spending less money. VCs are spending less money because they're a bit nervous of what happened around COVID when it was easy to, fund businesses.
Yeah.
Consumers and, people are spending less money because for obvious reasons, things are more expensive. So on a macro level, that's always difficult. And as always, we're a high growth startup. So there are 7 of us in the team at the moment, and we've all got, the work of 4 people each to do. So I think it's just navigating that, but it's super exciting for us.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Really looking forward to tracking your development, the next stages of your growth. And Jack, I'm very interested to know what you would say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now.
So I would say just do it. I think just do it, but bear in mind it's unlikely to be successful the first time around. So again, these might be quite old, but I remember writing a report a couple of years ago that was like, successful CEO is successful on their third attempt. Founder CEO successful on their third attempt.
Yep.
So I just think bear in mind that you should go for it, but it's statistically unlikely that you're a success on the first go. And just bear in mind that there's a lot of stuff out there that's like, before you do this, here are the skills you need to learn. And sure, there is. Like I say, you need to learn psychology, persuasion, sales, and empathy if you don't have it already, but you should. But there's a lot of stuff out there. Normally, it's to make money that says before you start this, you should learn this, or you learn how to do finances, or learn, whatever it may be. And actually, the best learning is just going to do it, and you kind of work that stuff out all along, and that will set you apart from your peers because you'll go, cool, while you're watching YouTube videos about it, I'm actually doing it, and here's the matter of fact thing. So it's kind of an easy answer, and I know people are thinking, but what about the risks, etc.? I would just say, just do it.
Yeah, no, great, thank you. I thought you might say that. I was hoping you would. Yeah, I mean, what's the risk? There are risks, but I love that stat about third time because it means that we there is a reasonable likelihood of failure anyway. So let's
Yeah.
just accept it and crack on. So that's the worst that's going to happen. What do we do? Start again.
Exactly, and I think there's a lot of stuff out there. So it's happened to me. You're joining a startup. Isn't that a bit risky? But actually, isn't it equally as risky to stay in? And this wasn't the case for me because I was enjoying it. But people that don't like their current jobs, isn't it more risky to stay on that path? Or in 10 years, what if you'd never done this? Isn't it more risky to do that? And I think there's a lot of just talk around putting people off, but actually, you should just go and do it.
It's a really good point. I joined the business in Harrogate that we went on to grow and sell. Primarily, I was made redundant from a job that I had in Manchester, and it was a job for life. And I didn't realize at that point, but I was in danger of being, my age now, probably in the same company, drawing
Yeah,
away, being quite okay, but not have experienced what I've experienced over the last 20, 30 years in it. And that's almost would have been the nightmare of not doing
exactly.
it.
I
Really.
think, yeah, I think again, philosophically, but people will look back and go, should have done that thing. Because even if you try it and fail, the people that are telling you not to do it have just never tried. Do you know what I mean? So, isn't it a bit, oh, you shouldn't do that. What if it fails? And it's like, but at least I've tried it and at least I've done it. At least I've picked up these skills on the way. And even
100%.
if you have to go back to working for someone, you will look more appealing than your peers because you go, look, here's my profile now.
100%. And I think there is a, whether it's a quote or not, but when people say you shouldn't do it, they're telling you what they can't do, not what you can't do.
Yeah,
And I
Yeah,
think that's the key thing. It's like, you wouldn't make it work, but I will.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And which is really interesting. Brilliant. And finally, Jack, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so?
Um, I would, I think build a network as early as possible. We now know as we get older that the network is vital.
Yep.
Build a network. You don't necessarily know what you're going to be or what you're going to end up as, but just build a network with people. The kind of the quicker you build a good one, the better it is later. I think take more risks on stuff. I think every decision you make in your 20s feels like this is the most important decision I'll ever make. And then looking back now, you're just like, oh, that was just another decision and amongst many, you know? And I think I would also say that your 20s are, you don't necessarily need to know what you want to do, although it does help, but your 20s should be building and developing yourself. And then the fruit of that comes in your 30s. So I think I'm stealing this from Alex Hormozy, but I love is he's in your 20s. I think what people do is they go, well, I want the biggest salaries possible. Where can I get that? And the biggest salary is probably a big business that you're not passionate about, whatever it may be, or you might not be happy because you're like, well, I've come out of uni, I'm only on 20K or whatever it is. But actually, spend all your time and all your money on developing yourself. Then when you come into your 30s, the fruit of that will come around, and then you can set your own business up or whatever. But I think too many people, myself included, this is why I'm giving that advice, we're just like, right, where's the money and when can I be a CEO? And it's just like, no, you need to build the foundation of your skills and mindset first, and then in your 30s, it's likely to come.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it was Jim. Well, I know it's Jim Rohn said work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly right. And those two things are linked. So they'll both fly. The better
yeah,
you get, the better your job will become. You'll have access to more interesting jobs to you.
absolutely.
But just stay focused on the development of yourself. And when you see in the news that 23-year-old founders just raised 100 million, cool. Don't worry about that. Just go. Just develop.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, we can all do that. That's not the end of it. No problem. Brilliant. Well, Jack, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. And thank you so much for your time. And it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months just to see where that next stage of growth is taking you. But before we go, if for anyone that's interested in contacting you or Jobdeck, what would be the easiest way to do that?
Yeah, perfect. So go into our Jobdeck website, which is jobdeck.io, or drop me an email on jobdeck.ai.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, again, it'd be great to speak again in a little while. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Lovely stuff. Cheers, Matt.
Cheers.